Can you understand how prosperity sets people free and how sound currency would lead to that? As your currency, as progress keeps increasing in worth, that's supply and demand, free market capitalism working. And you understand what a threat that is to the establishment because they would lose all relevance. We don't need Big Brother anymore when the system is working fine. When everybody's doing good, we don't need these people. We're not going to let them rip us off. That's what they're doing. They're stealing the wealth of our nation in perpetuity. We all need to ask ourselves, would I be threatened if tomorrow we lived in an entirely money free society? Okay, that's a question we all need to ask ourselves because I think that we're all money lovers to some degree. We can't help it. We're trained that way. That's why we love money. We see it as our security. That's our way out of fear. We see it as freedom. That's financial freedom. We see it as prosperity and wealth and all good things in this world because we've been trained, indoctrinated, brainwashed to believe these things. But money, the truth is, need have nothing at all to do with prosperity. Nothing. But yet, look at the way we think of it. We all think of money and prosperity as one and the same, two peas in a pod. It's not true. You've been brainwashed, inculcated to believe these things. The fact is that prosperity is measured by God. Not to mention, we could talk about the subjective nature of the term prosperity. What is prosperity to God? It's having wisdom. You know, I mean, look at Victor Hugo that says, prosperity makes monsters and adversity makes men. But I hear so many people talking like that. That's great for other people, but my kids, no, I'm going to leave them a fortune that they didn't work for and earn. But the whole idea is the social liberal bleeding heart idea of people being born into wealth that God provided. I can't handle that. No Big Brother out there, money master. I mean, we have all these issues, folks, because we're psyched out. These people use psychological warfare. That's the whole sorcery thing. They conjure up nonsense, but they are evil genius. They're very smart, they're very cunning, they're very crafty, they're very diabolical, and so they're very effective. And if those things don't work, they simply murder. That's it. They murder, literally, like JFK, like spoiled little murderous brats. That's what they'll do to maintain power. So understand, when it comes to deciding which side you're on, you want to be very, very clear. Make no bones about it in your mind and your heart. You want to be ready to part ways with this system, with this world, this beast system, this establishment, okay? Because it is vile, it is evil in the sight of God, and money itself is evil in the sight of God. It's detestable. He sees it's the root of all our problems. He sees the maimings and killings that are done in these dubious wars we're involved in. He sees the crime, the homicides that are committed. He sees the people that commit suicide over this stuff. He sees the things people do. They engage in pornography and prostitution and the drugs and all this stuff. He sees the debt and the wreckage, the bondage, the burden he puts on people. He sees it all. It's bad. Money is evil. It's bad. We've got to get away from it. And sound currency is a way to do it gently, gradually, incrementally. But they're not going to let us have it. But that's the one thing we got to demand. Even though things, as I speak, continue to go downhill, the debt keeps increasing. This is one of the things Donald Trump says he wants to attack is the debt. He wants to confront that. We've got to deal with these things, but the Republicans and the Democrats aren't. They're just fine. As long as their own personal numbers keep going up, they don't care. We've got to ask ourselves why we're short-sighted, why we're narrow-minded, and understand you've been trained to be that way. These people don't have the solutions. There is no solution to a Ponzi scheme. That's what's going on here. There has to be a lot of losers for these trillionaires to stay in power, and that's what they are. After all, folks, if you own the copyright to the money printing operation, how much are you worth? You're worth as much as you say you are, as much as you want, and that's the power they have right now. Who can tell me I'm wrong? Okay, nobody can tell me I'm wrong because I'm not wrong. And that's something they should not have. That should be in the hands of the people. We, the people, rightfully own the wealth of this planet. Not some of us, all of us. That should be our reality. Instead, we got to turn it over to these social Darwinian depopulationists, these haters of humanity, these huge hypocrites, the epitome. They're the exemplification of a hypocrite. That's who these people are. Oh, humans are bad on the earth and we're the good guys. Oh, but we're all for population when it comes to immigration, because you know what this is, folks, with it's a last-ditch effort to prop up the economy. That's because they're putting the demand on things. It is a head count. That's how it works, folks. That's what these people, in these people's mind. They say that, but then they say, oh, well, population, the earth's overpopulated, but I'm all pro-immigration because it's good for my bottom line. You understand how this works? So yes, Democrats and Republicans can be evil. Liberals and conservatives can be evil. Communists and capitalists can be evil, okay? That's a matter of fact. We've all got to get a few steps ahead of these people. We've got to be smarter, wiser. Like Jesus said, be as shrewd as serpents and as innocent as doves. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. And that's what I try to do in my videos. And if I'm talking to the wind, if I don't have a single listener, a single viewer of my videos, hey, so be it. I'm on record. My conscience is clear. In front of God, I have done what I could to be a proper reflection, a proper representation, and be as honest as I possibly could without compromising my integrity, my honor, my conscience, my soul. And that's what I implore everybody to do. Don't compromise. Be true to yourself. Speak your mind. Find out the facts. And don't be afraid to admit when you're wrong. Put down that false pride and say, you know what? Humility never hurt anybody. Humiliation never hurt anybody. It's okay to be wrong. Everybody's wrong sometime. I'm wrong sometimes. When I think back to how I thought 30 years ago, I mean, I've always been a proponent of things like, equality. I believe in fair pay. I believe in prosperity. I believe in security. I believe in freedom. But I didn't know a lot of stuff. I started to buy on to this idea that, it's about me becoming prosperous. Don't worry about the other guy. You just set an example. You become rich, kind of like Donald Trump. That's what he's done. He spent his whole life, proving what he's preached. He preached prosperity and he attained prosperity. Now he wants to do it for the people, and I believe him. I do. So a lot of these people that, these pseudo-conservatives, whatever, that think that ending poverty is not important, remember, it's fiscally prudent. It'll be cheaper. Your taxes should go down. If your money is sound, your taxes will go down along with everything else. That's your cost of living. And taxes are kind of an essential human need because it's extracted from you involuntarily. It's coerced. It's forced from you through intimidation, okay? Through manipulation, through force. That's it. I mean, you could evade your taxes. There's trickery, like if you can afford an attorney and all that. But you know what? Other than that, it's kind of mandated. You do it. I mean, you better play by the rules. And we're serious. We'll take your stuff away. We could put you in jail. We can make your life miserable. So taxes are a big deal by the government. I get that. And if you want those things to go down, then listen to me. Listen to me. If your currency was worth more every day, you could own, instead of one house that's been like your piggy bank, and you think that's so wonderful that you've gained all these unearned increments because of market manipulation, think about having 5 houses, one anywhere in the world. Every month you could live in a different house, okay? Whatever the case may be, folks. So I'm not against private property. It's not because I talk about sharing that I'm against private property. I'm saying let's just be logical here. Let's just figure this thing out. I mean, if housing is where we all need to focus, then fine. But you know how many people are doing useless jobs out there? They're not building houses. They're not providing you with clean water. They're not growing your food or transporting your food. They're nothing. They're doing nothing. In fact, their jobs revolve around the problem. Even people in the media industry, so many of them. I mean, if the problem ever went away, they're not going to have nothing to talk about. All they have to talk about is a little boy falling into the gorilla exhibit, which I think is horrific. It's very unsettling, the whole thing. I can't say what I would do and second guess what the zookeepers did, okay? But in my estimation, it never should have happened in the first place. Let's just leave it at that. It never should have been allowed to happen. The mother never should have allowed her child. I was a single dad. I never would have let my kids fall into a gorilla exhibit. What kind of an idiot is she? Idiot, idiot, idiot. And then look, the kid's got to live with it. He grows up. I'm responsible for killing a rare silver black gorilla. It was my fault because I'm a stupid little kid that jumped in the exhibit. Now he's got to live it. Whoever had to murder the gorilla, he's got to live with it. The whole thing is a mess. And it's so emblematic of the way the system works. It's like, don't fix it unless it's broken sort of attitude. Well, let's make sure it's really, really, really broken and break it as good as we can, like the economy, before we even approach it. In the meantime, just Congress, Senate, give yourselves raises. Don't worry about tomorrow, one day at a time. All this day is, here's wisdom. Here's wisdom from your overlords, the money printers, the money masters, Satan, okay? Just give yourselves a raise. Just, kick the can down the road. Let the proletariat pay for it. Just don't give them a minimum wage increase, so their wages are always going up. So keep lowering the standard of living. But then they go on welfare. So we're hitting that point now, where now you're figuring out. You could say, I'm against minimum wage going up. Well, are you against your taxes going up? Because one way or another, you will pay. Because people have had it. Okay, they have a right to exist on this planet. Okay, and nobody can tell me I'm wrong about that statement. Everybody that's born on this planet has a right to exist on this planet. And part of that right, one of the most fundamental parts of that right, is to build a shelter. Okay? That's what people have a right to. So government, you're going to drive them off. Any police out there, social workers, you're going to drive the homeless away and tell them, you can't be here, go somewhere else. No, you don't do that unless you give them a place to go, because they have a right, just like they did in the Depression with the Hooverville setup. They had it better back then. Things keep getting worse. Slavery keeps getting worse, not better. They're legitimizing it. Right under our noses, they're doing this. Right under our noses. Do you know how much it used to cost 100 years ago to keep a gardener on your estate? You had a gardener? Nowadays, it's an amenity. For crying out, everybody's got a garden. You don't have a gardener? What's wrong with you, man? They're so cheap. It's like, what? You can't afford 50, 100, 150 bucks a month? What's wrong with you? Okay? Because that's how it is. Has labor benefited from the technology? No. They've been hurt by the technology. State-of-the-art tools. I mean, I go out there and I can do in an hour what literally 100 years ago used to take 5 guys all day to do, literally, because of state-of-the-art equipment. And how has that benefited me? No, it hasn't. It hasn't at all. But people think my work is useful. They love the beauty of a beautiful yard, nice rose garden, whatever they have. They love it. Nice, beautiful mowed lawn. They want that maintenance. They want to keep their flower beds weeded and all this stuff, their bushes trimmed. They love it. It's status to them. I got a beautiful yard. Look, neighbors, they show it off. So, let's just wake up and be honest about stuff, okay, folks? About the way it really is. I mean, let's use our noggins, use our God-given brains, the power of imagination. Let's do what John Lennon said, Rob Dew, he looks like he's this communist. He puts on this beret, makes him look like Che Guevara or something. He's got this beard and this long hair. So he comes across to people like he's some, libtard. And, he's out there spewing this stuff. I think, you know what? I mean, what are you? Conservative? If you're a conservative, then you're for fiscal prudence. You don't believe in minimum wage, cost of living adjustments. But how do you feel about taxes? How do you feel about people paying taxes to guys like Rich Dad to make them fabulously wealthy? Because that industry, the landlord industry, is subsidized by the government. That's where your taxes are going. So I say, yeah, cut down all the taxes. Yeah, all those guys, let's put Rich Dad out of business by taking away Section 8. You're just going to have a lot of dying people out in the cold, but like a Band-Aid. Let's just pull the damn thing off. It said, itty bitty, oh, no, we can't do that. Don't want to rock the boat. Let's take this Ponzi scheme as far as we can. Yeah, let's get serious. Let's get real. Okay? That's what I say. So, you know what? Anybody has an issue with me, if anybody out there's listening to my videos, you got a comment, please leave me a comment. Okay? Because I'd like to know where I'm wrong, where my thinking is fouled up. But remember, I go into the Bible. I really try to understand prayerfully what I'm being taught. Okay, what does Jesus mean by this? What does he mean by that? What does he mean by the parable of the poor widow that put in 2 pennies into the treasury at the temple, and in the sight of God she put in more than all these rich people were putting in all these gobs of money? But in the sight of God, you put in, what does that mean? What are the implications therein? How do I see this? So God believes that the money of the poor is worth more? Yes, it is worth more. How does the world see it? It doesn't